new here, then you might not know that I have a lot of content on YouTube which is all about tips and tricks for growing as a content creator. Now, I'm here to tell you that this video is not going to be like those ones because I want to focus on some tips that you've probably never heard before. So these aren't your usual like, how often should I post? What features should I use on Instagram? Like, that's not what I'm talking about today. Today, I'm really talking about some really, really important bits of advice that I can give you that's gonna massively help you grow as a creator in a really comfortable and enjoyable way this year. So if that sounds like a bit of you, then carry on watching this video. Also, before I start, I upload content like this every single week, so be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you spotted my broken nail there, just mind your business. My nail appointment is tomorrow. So, okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is pretty deep. It's basically your internal belief system. So what I'm referring to here is the different things that you tell yourself and the different things that you believe in, because these are the things that shape all of the actions that you take in this life, and therefore they have a direct impact on how successful you end up becoming as a creator. Now, becoming a content creator will test your internal belief system like nothing else. Like nothing else. And I wish someone told me that before I started, because I honestly didn't know. You could start this journey with zero knowledge of all of the limiting beliefs that you currently tell yourself and that you currently believe in, because I did. I was completely unfamiliar with this whole concept of limiting beliefs, and I didn't know that I even had any until I started to become a content creator, and I was like, my God, I've got a lot, and oh my God, these have been holding me back throughout my entire life. A really great example, and the most common one that you probably have at the moment, is that you genuinely don't believe that you could make this work. So you know that you want this, and you might vocally say like, yeah, I think I can do it, and this is something I really want, but you'll have a little voice in the back of your mind telling you, it's not gonna work though, is it? It's not really possible though, is it? Oh, so-and-so only managed to do it because of XYZ, or she's only popular because of whatever, right? We tell ourselves all these limiting beliefs, and they hold us back from truly pursuing this as a career. Now, these limiting beliefs show up in so many different ways, but one of the most common ways that it's gonna show up throughout your journey is by leading yourself to quit, because you're going to tell yourself it's not working and you were right all along and it was never really possible. And also by holding yourself from truly creating the content you want to create, and that the content that you know your audience will love. I had a call this morning with one of my clients, and we uncovered that she has this limiting belief which is tied to her imposter syndrome, and she basically feels like she can't talk about the subject that she wants to talk about because she doesn't know enough about it. Mind you, this is someone who's literally doing a PhD in this subject, so imposter syndrome can literally come for anyone, guys. No one is immune. But we realized that that belief was stopping her from creating this really impactful content that she knows people would find valuable, but that she also knows might open her up to a bit of scrutiny. And because of that, and because of that fear, she hadn't been creating any of that style of content, and instead she was creating content that was doing okay, but it was not doing anywhere near as well as this other style of content really could be doing for her. So ask yourself, what is your internal belief system? If I said to you right now, do you genuinely really believe that this is possible for you? I want you to answer that question honestly to yourself, okay? I can't actually hear you, so it's okay, no one can hear you. Answer that question honestly to yourself. And if the answer to that question is anything other than, oh my God, yes, then we need to work on that. Because I'm here to tell you that literally anyone can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. It is completely possible. We just got to put the work in, and we got to get a bit strategic. But everything we need is within our grasp, and we're completely able to achieve the goal of becoming a content creator. All right, so slightly less deep thing here. The next tip that I can give you that you've probably never heard before is to spend time identifying where your gaps in your knowledge or your skills are. This is something that I think a lot of us do in every other aspect of life, but for some reason we don't do it when we're trying to become a creator. We kind of go into this journey without realizing that there are gaps in our knowledge or in our skill set, or we go into the journey knowing that there are gaps in our knowledge and our skill set, but we don't do anything about it. Now, both of those routes don't work. What we should do, and what I encourage you to do, is to sit down and spend some time figuring out, okay, what areas do you not feel too strong in? Like, do you feel like actually you don't know much about camera equipment? That was one of my by the way. That was one of my gaps in my knowledge and my skill set, was like the production side. Or are you like, actually, I don't know the strategic element. I don't know actually how to grow. I don't know how to build a community. Or is it more about the camera confidence, right? Figure out what area you need to improve on and dedicate some time and some resources to improving on that area. It doesn't have to be straight away. It doesn't have to be an immediate improvement. My knowledge of cameras and production is still minuscule, but I make an effort every single week to learn more about it so that I can slowly build up my skill set in that area and slowly close that gap. Another thing that happens when we don't take the time out to identify where our gap is in our knowledge or our skill is that we use the knowledge that there is a gap somewhere to hold us back from starting. So what we tell ourselves is, okay, I don't know anything about cameras, so I can't become a creator. I could have told myself that and then I wouldn't be here right now, right? Or we tell ourselves, oh, I don't feel comfortable speaking on camera, so I can't become a creator. Or I don't feel comfortable scripting videos. Like, there is a gap that we know needs to be filled. And rather than starting our journey and filling that gap as we go along, we let the knowledge of that gap stop us from making any progress at all. So what I want you to do is to spend some time figuring out where your gaps in your knowledge or skill set are, right? Do not let those gaps hold you back. Start anyway and just continuously learn what you need to learn in order to fill that gap as you progress. That is the best strategy that anyone can take when it comes to becoming a content creator, because let me tell you right now, there is no content creator who started straight away and just knew everything already. If they did, then like I don't know. No, there's none. I was gonna say maybe they worked at something. There's none. Prove me wrong. I don't think there's any. Like everyone had something they needed to learn when they got started. The difference between the successful ones is that they didn't let that hold them back. All right, so next bit of advice is to stop seeing content that didn't perform well as a failure. Instead, you want to see it as a lesson. And I know that sounds so corny, but it really is true. And I've worked with so many creators, and the biggest, most successful creators are ones who have absolutely nailed this. They have mastered this process. So what I'm referring to is, I'm willing to bet that there's someone watching this who shared an Instagram post or a TikTok or a YouTube or something recently that didn't perform as well as you wanted it to. I'm the exact same. I would like to say there's only one post like that. I've shared several pieces of content within the past month which have not performed anywhere near as well as I thought and hoped that they would. Now, instead of looking at that content and thinking, oh, what a waste of time, I spent all that time creating it, it didn't do as well, what a failure, I'm never doing that again. Instead, what I want you to do is to practice the process of actually drawing lessons from that content, but doing it in an effective way. So what I always encourage people to do is to post and ghost. So when you share a new piece of content, share it, leave it alone. Obviously engage in the comments and stuff, but when it comes to the analytics, ignore it. The analytics do not matter yet. We're not going to make any big decisions or draw any lessons from a piece of content we only shared 24 hours ago. We're just not going to do it. That is how you end up making the wrong decisions, is by evaluating one piece of content in isolation 24 hours after it was shared. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to practice posting and ghosting. We're going to know that however that content performs, we're going to draw something from it. Whether it's that it blew up and we gained loads of new followers, or whether it's that it didn't perform well and we can draw a lesson from it later down the line. Regardless, we're going to take something from that piece of content. So let that sit with you and just post and ghost. What I then want you to do, like a month down the line, or maybe even 3 months down the line, is to look at your content holistically. So look at a month's worth of content or 3 months worth of content and then draw lessons and conclusions. That is how you can see patterns with the content that performed better versus the content that didn't. And that is what gives you the beautiful, beautiful power of context. And when you have context, it is so much easier for you to make the right decisions rather than acting on a whim out of emotion because that reel that you posted last night didn't blow up. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to say is, it's not really a tip. I'm not really sure what I would call it. Advice? Well, then aren't tips also advice? I don't know. Right, so what I want to say is, spit it out, Jade, don't choose this route because you want an easy life. Do not choose to become a content creator because you want life to be easier. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that being a content creator is so hard. That's not what I'm going to sit here and talk about. But I am going to provide a bit of context as to what goes into this so that you can make an informed decision as to whether or not this is actually the right route for you. Now, the thing is a lot of people, myself included back in the day, would see content creators or influencers do a sponsored post and think, well, that took you 2 seconds. That was so easy. Why don't we all do that? Right? This looks amazing. I'm going to do that and make loads of money. And then we hear that that person got paid 10 grand for it. And we're like, what is going on here? Like, this is an easy route to make some good money. Now, I'm gonna do a huge disclaimer or caveat here. Creating sponsored content, in my opinion, is nowhere near as difficult as the average job. Now, I worked for 8 years in marketing before I did this, and when I was younger I worked in like retail and hostessing and all that kind of stuff. Every single job that I've had, I would say, is a lot harder than the sponsorship part of my business. The actual process of getting a brief, creating a sponsored piece of content, and then sharing it back with the brand is not naturally difficult. It definitely comes with its challenges, especially if you're working with a difficult brand, but overall, the amount of money that you get for that type of work, at least if you're pricing your partnerships properly, is incredibly good when you look at the amount of work that it takes, even for a difficult client, compared to how much you're getting paid. I mean, I've not done every job in the world, but from my experience, you just can't compare the two. Where the hard part comes in though, is that if you want to be a content creator with any form of longevity, so you want to be one who doesn't just work with brands from time to time now, but also sells their own products or their own services, they've built their own personal brand, you know, their content has longevity, so they can do this in the long haul, right? If you want to be that form of content creator, then there is so much more what will go into this than just landing brand partnerships. You actually need to build a business, and that is the part that is difficult. Building a business requires you to understand accounting and finance. It requires you to understand how to market your own products and your services. It requires you to build a team. And the funny thing is that if you said to anyone like, oh, I'm building a business from scratch, they would think, my God, that sounds difficult. But then if you say to someone, oh, I'm going to become a content creator, it usually sounds easier. And that is simply just because of how those two things are viewed. Where in actuality, a lot of content creators are business owners, myself included, and therefore taking this route in life can actually be pretty difficult. I can't tell you whether this is harder than your average job because I've not done every job in the world, but I just want you to know that if you want to do this for the long haul, it is going to be challenging and it's going to be difficult. I'm here to help you along the way though, but I just want you to be aware this is not an easy route, okay? It's gonna come with a lot of graft. Final piece of advice, and one that I wish I followed sooner in my journey and that I'm trying to follow now, is to stand for something. I feel like standing for something is the new niche. And what I'm referring to is really figuring out what your values are and what you believe in as a person and standing for that. More recently, there've been a huge increase in content creators who don't necessarily have a niche, but they have a really specific audience and they stand for something in their content. So I'm not always saying something that's like super noble or like super controversial. A lot of the time they're standing for things like their stance on soft life or on hustle culture. I've even seen creators on TikTok blow up because they absolutely hate the Dyson Airwrap thing and therefore that's what they stand for. Like, there are so many different angles to this. If I give you an example for me, what I want my content to stand for moving forward is I want to be promoting transparency and diversity within the creator space. That's what I want to stand for in my content. That's already what I do stand for, but I make the mistake of not vocalizing that enough and also not tailoring my content to actually talk about this subject enough. So ask yourself, is there something that you really believe in? Is there something that you really stand for? Are you a huge fan of shopping sustainably yet affordably? Like, what is the thing for you that you really believe in as a person and that you want to share with others using social media? Know that when you stand for something, you will always get people who disagree. And when you vocally stand for something, you will get people who will vocally disagree, right? Not only will they disagree, but they will tell you that they disagree. But in my opinion, as long as what you're standing for is obviously not offensive, it's not like you're gonna turn around and be like, oh, I don't agree with equality, like none of that crap. As long as what you stand for doesn't offend anyone in any way and is moral, like the obvious caveats that I feel like I shouldn't even need to say. But as long as what you're standing for are none of those things, then I think you should go for it because it's something that you believe in and it will get tied to your brand and you'll become known for that thing. So that is why I say it's the new niche, because you won't necessarily become known for only creating fashion content, you will become known for living sustainably. Okay, so that's it. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, I really recommend watching this video. It's all about the top content creator mistakes that you should no longer be making because they will be harming your journey and your progress. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I can't wait to see you in my next video.